Welcome to BizTech's Asia's Hottest Startup Show, the show where we feature hot startup companies operating across the Asia-Pacific region, talking about their businesses and their journey towards becoming Asia's next unicorn. Now, today we speak to Ryan Manafe, the CEO and co-founder of Dagangan. Now, Dagangan is an Indonesian social commerce startup that focuses on serving communities in rural areas in Indonesia by providing various household necessities through an app. Now, Ryan, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Brian, for having me.
Now, Ryan, for a start, you have a very interesting background as an entrepreneur, as a McKinsey consultant, and also you've spent time in the Air Force Academy boarding school. Please walk us through your background.
Well, if you were asking me what was my kind of dream when I was a boy, 15, 16, 17 years old boy, it's being a soldier. To be exact, it's being a jet fighter pilot, someone that driving Sukhoi or F-16. I even still remember the type of F-16 I would like to drive. It's a fighting Falcon. So that was my dream, like living as a soldier because of the pride, the honor, and fight for the country, right? But seems things have changed, right? And there is one main requirement I have to acquire, but I couldn't, which is the blessing from my parents. So I end up have to quote unquote revise my dream because I didn't get that blessing. So I find other kind of alternatives way to serve the country, right? And not really serve the country, like being honest, to have that kind of honor contributing for the nation, right? And there was a time when I found out about government unit. It's just no longer there. It was there around 2009 all the way to 2014, I guess, 2004 to 2014. It's a presidential unit. It's a like small group working directly under the president of the country, right? And helping the president to debottlenecking strategic programs and policies, right? And some of the tasks is pretty sexy, like giving the recommendation to the presidents, which ministers to fire and which candidates as the replacement, right? But it was tough because I think our main task back then is recovering Aceh. Aceh is one of the provinces in Indonesia that got hit by tsunami at 2000, early 2000, I guess, right? So I think that was the main task. So I was sent out to the areas a lot, to Aceh and other areas, to checking out the areas that got impacted by the earthquakes, tsunami, and things, and think about how we can accelerate the recovery and economic development. Long story short, that was the moment when I met McKinsey, because we work a lot with McKinsey, and it seems McKinsey consultants like the way I work. Yeah, probably I can deceive them very well. So long story short, I moved to McKinsey. I got the blessing from my boss in that government unit. So I continue my career in McKinsey there for 2+ years before start a renewable energy startup. The startup that I would say now becoming the biggest solar energy company in Indonesia before building Dagangan 2.5 years ago.
And so really, this is your second entrepreneurial venture and a second successful venture. And did you exit out of that earlier venture in renewable energy?
I'm still in the board as the commissioner and helping them in some work related to dealing with the government to work on the strategic projects, especially on the government policies to shift from the coal electricity towards the renewable energy.
And so, which brings me then to Dagangan. What inspired you to create Dagangan, and what are the key problems that you're trying to solve?
So when I was in the renewable energy company, I feel like I start delivering impact by electrifying places that not electrified yet, right? But then it's kind of limited because there are many areas, many rural areas already electrified, but it doesn't mean the problem is already fully solved, right? There are some basic things like access towards basic necessities that is super difficult. They have to travel to the nearby cities 20, 30 kilometers, 30 minutes, 1 hour every single day. And even after they do it, they cannot get enough selection of SKUs and still have to pay at least 30% more expensive, right? So that kind of things cannot be solved with solar panel, right? So I think like I want to do more. And on top of it, my previous startup already super secure financially because one of the biggest conglomerate in the country take over for me. So as I say to these big guys, I would like to continue pursuing my passion. And it's a bit difficult because they want me still inside, but we arrive at the agreement that, okay, I'm gonna help part-time as a commissioner, and happy that they are now also part of the Dagangan investors.
Now, interestingly enough, you just pointed out that compared to tier 1 and tier 2 cities, these rural are underserved, and that's about 100 million from what I understand. They pay 30% more for their everyday necessities and groceries. Now, is that also that extra cost previously because of supply chain and logistics issues?
Yes. The problem is currently we see super many logistic players becoming giants, but we don't forget their clients are mostly in the tier 1, tier 2 cities. So we cannot blame them that they're not going to the rural areas because they don't have clients. Hopefully, if we are growing much bigger, then they can go there because we can become their client, right? But I think going back to your questions is more on the inefficient kind of a supply chain flow from the producers all the way to the end users in the rural areas. The way it works in Indonesia, typically one distributors only can serve one principals, and one principals typically only consists of 5 to 10 brands. This is where the inefficient happens, right? Because you cannot go that deep if the principal you are supporting don't have large volume of sales, because economy of scales from perspective, volumes perspective, it doesn't make sense economically.
Right.
So it's only 1, 2 distributors which carry super big principals that becoming the market leaders can penetrate deep enough in the rural areas. So what we are doing is actually very simple. We become these agnostic distributors. So we work with all of these distributors that exclusively work with the principals, and we help them penetrate deeper because we don't have that exclusivity, right? But to be able to do it, we have to be really go super deep, because if not, then we don't give them value add.
Yeah, and yours is a micro distribution model, isn't it? You actually use elements of group buying to actually make things work. Could you break it down for us as to how you actually do it?
So we do 2 or 3 layers of group buying. If you are a group buying or social commerce startup in the cities, then you can only do 1 layer because the distributor is already there. We have a lot of big wholesalers in the cities. But in the rural, if you only do 1 layer of group buying, it's probably in the sub-villages, right? The distributor is not even in the villages. And if you ask the distributors to fulfill this demand, this 1 layer is not enough, because one household's amount of purchase in the villages compared to the cities is much smaller. So you have to do it 2 or 3 layers. What I meant by that is after you group buying for 1 neighborhood, then you group it even more. That's where you build a hub. So okay. Hub is actually a compilation of 2 or 3 layers of group buying. And then the distributors can deliver it to that hub because the volume is already enough to justify the delivery cost for the distributors.
Okay. Now, what does your footprint look like? Because logistically, obviously, this is a huge problem that you're solving.
Yes. So our investors even say when we did first meeting, we are not tech startup. We are tech enabled company because we do a lot of offline things, a lot of offline activities, and we will not deny that. That's the reality. And if we stop or we shift totally to online, it's not going to work. It's not going to work, right? So in terms of the area of operations, we are not covering big cities. We are not covering quote unquote rural areas that is only 1 to 2 hours from the big cities. Not because it's not difficult enough, no, but if we do that, if we cover that areas, then we cannot justify our value added towards distributors, because that's the area that distributors can cover easily. So we have to go very deep. So the closest areas we are currently covering is 3 hours from the big cities. Mostly it's 4, 5 hours. Some areas are 8 hours.
Wow. So sorry, this is incredible, because the research that I did had some staggering numbers. So you have a footprint of 8 tier 3 cities, 5,000 tier 4 villages, and in over 50 regencies. So that's an incredible amount of depth that you have to go through in order to do your distribution. And that's really the problems that you're solving, isn't it?
Yes, but we don't want to say this is like the absolute formula for every places, because for Indonesia, for example, we can do this in Java Island because it's pretty crowded even outside the cities. But if you go to Kalimantan, by the way, we're going to Kalimantan, expanding to Kalimantan in the next few months, we probably cannot go that far from the cities. Probably the furthest we can go is 2 hours from the cities, because beyond that, it's purely jungle, you know. So we also have to be careful. And this kind of things, the differentiation, the fact that we have to tailor the approach is something that you cannot do 100% digital by sitting in Jakarta or Singapore. So that's how we make a difference compared to other players.
Okay, then there's the buyer and customer education portion that's also harder, because you've got different levels of education and so forth. So walk us through some of the challenges that you faced when actually growing this business. You started this business in 2019. But one of the key things is, of course, one is building the distribution network. The other thing is on the customer side to get adoption. How did you overcome that?
You are 100% right. And I like the fact that you're not, blinded towards that, because some people will say, well, Indonesia is the biggest producers of unicorns and decacons, and they think like all people can shop online just like that. But the truth, that's not like that. Some players will say we can easily go to rural and shift their behavior just like that. I will not say that. It takes at least 2 or 3 times of offline face-to-face meetings to educate them. And even afterwards, you cannot just trust them 100%. You cannot just leave them like that. We always say to our sales force, you have to visit them at least once a month. If not, then it's not going to happen, because in Java Island, to be exact, the relationship play a very important role in the business. So addressing your questions, right? We call our operation model as hub and spoke. Well, this is only a terms that they typically used in supply chain and distribution, but what it means is network of micro fulfillment centers, right? And in those micro fulfillment centers, there are 3 important roles. Number 1 is, of course, putting inventory, grouping the purchase, like what I explained previously. But number 2 is the physical presence. This is something that cannot be replaced by pure digital players, because people have to see it. When they see, where is your office? That is our office. It's like 10 minutes from here. You can come to our fulfillment centers. You can see the goods we are actually selling. You can see how people are working there and how we are handling the inventory. That's number 2. Number 3, by having the hub and spoke, then we have to employ the local talents. And that's the power of network actually start rolling out, because our talent is local people, and some of them will be doing the sales at the beginning before we shift 100% to digital. Then it's super easy, because the one that they are approaching are actually probably their friends, their family members, and their relatives. So trust comes first before they understand the products. And when we do deliver well in terms of our SLA, our services, then it's very small probability you don't shop from us again. That's why our retention rate is 70 to 80%.
So this is really employing, so you talk about a textbook term to use, and I hate to use it, but I have to in this case, hyper local strategy.
Whatever it is.
Because especially if you're in Asia, it's about relationships.
Exactly. You still remember the stores that your parents go to, right? And sometimes you still go to that stores, even it's like 5% more expensive. It's like probably 0.5 bucks difference. What's the matter for us, right? But you keep go there because of the relationship. And look, 70% of our revenue coming from groceries, daily necessities. That's exactly how it works.
Now, given this, you've just raised 11.5 million in a Series A funding led by Monks Hill Ventures. But that's an interesting story around Monks Hill Ventures, isn't it? They didn't just decide to invest in you. It was a long process. Could you enlighten us into the relationship building and finally the timeline it took to actually get the Series A across the line?
Yeah. In the startup investment, there is a jargon, the term that people keep saying. It's a FOMO, fear of missing out. So when social commerce is everywhere, people invest in social commerce. When dark stores is everywhere, the 10 minutes thing, people are investing in dark stores, whatever, right? But Monks is different. They do what they want, right? So they don't simply follow people. They have their own thesis and they would like to profit, especially to the sectors they are not familiar with. And that's exactly what happened at the end of 2019, 2.5 years ago, when I bring Monks Hill partners for a one-day trip in Central Java. I drive the car myself, visiting random places, go through jungles, right? And I can still remember his facial expression when we went through the jungles, right? But it takes time, 1.5 years, especially after that pandemic start happening, and they come back to us. So we kept the relationship. Of course, we send them monthly update email, monthly catch up just to update the business. I haven't really I need money, right? Until 1.5 years, and we arrived at the discussion. Why don't you help us grow? Because during the catch up, the partner start giving us many advices, but some of the advices are not actionable because we don't have a strong investors backup. So beginning of 2021, we agreed to start exploring Dagangan as a potential investment opportunities rather than mentor-mentee relationship between the partner and myself.
And with a now well-capitalized 11.5 million, what are you planning to utilize the funding for?
By the way, last night I just signed a term sheet for A+ rounds.
Oh, congratulations!
In the next 1-2 months. Yeah, but it's a bit smaller. It's like 7 to 8 mil because it's a follow-on round. But
okay,
I think
congratulations.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Brian. I think now the question is, I still remember the question that I kept asked to myself during the last 3 months board meeting. How are you going to spend the money? Because we are a bit different with other startups. We are not really burning money. We come up with very strong unit economics. It doesn't mean we don't, we don't suffer any loss, no, but we are very careful at that because we have strong fundamentals. So now we are thinking of how we can increase the margins with the capital we have raised, because currently we rely on groceries and daily necessities, and we're selling it to rural people. So even we can get more margin by increase the price, we are not have that strong heart to do it, to charge people with higher price, right?
I suppose one of the things that I'm anticipating what you're going to say, you're going to go into the white label business.
Exactly, but the difference is we are not selling this white label to rural people. No. So what we are doing is we scout the best local products in these areas. I'm talking about snacks, food and beverages, all the way till home appliances like brooms and all of the plasticware, lunchbox, local industries product, right? And they don't have brands, but they have good qualities. And you don't forget even Jakarta, Greater Jakarta, Surabaya, Greater Surabaya, we are pretty much have more purchasing powers, but there are people who work as the online car drivers, Uber drivers, Gojek drivers that earn much less than us, and there is no products or there is no startups that focus to serve them. So what we are doing is we white label this product in the rural and distribute it to this middle low people in the tier one cities using the digital channel like TikTok. Right? And for them, it's not only about the price. It's kind of a cure to their homesick because it's probably coming from their origins where they were born.
Fantastic. And can you tell us now your priorities, goals, and plans for 2022, 2023?
What make us able to do this? Selling groceries and the necessities to rural, or selling local products white label to middle low people in the tier one cities is because we have presence. We have network of hub and spoke micro fulfillment centers. So we will continue to build this as our main capabilities, right? We plan to cover the whole Java Island by end of this year and start exploring other areas outside Java because we are aware the approach probably a bit different. That's why we're going to start with Kalimantan. Why Kalimantan? Because we're going to move the capital city. There will be new capital city over there. So East Kalimantan it is. And that's number one. Number two, previously we worked like horses. I can see how employees start losing their work-life balance, and I feel this is not fair. If it keeps happening, I still remember my promise. Look, after we wrap up our fundraise, things will get better. So I think that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to fulfill the promise to the team. We're upgrading the team. This quarter we hire 40 people, and 30% of it are senior people, and we'll continue to do this aggressive hiring till the end of the year, I guess. That's number two, strengthen the team. And number three this is interesting. I don't dare to use the terms, but in the board meeting we use these terms. We will do acquisitions. You remember the local products I mentioned? They are probably businesses, and even they have very good potential, it's a bit difficult for them to scale up because they simply don't have capabilities and whatever in place. So the fastest way to do it, to scale them up, is acquire them and put the right people, get them access towards working capital loan and whatsoever, and build them up to be a brand, a national brand that people recognize.
Now, Ryan, it's been a fascinating conversation. Thank you very much for taking your time to be on the show.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you for having me.
Now, I'm Brian Fernandez, and we've been speaking to Ryan Manafe, the CEO and co-founder of Dagangan out of Indonesia, on BizTech's Asia's Hottest Startup Show. This video and podcast will be on our website, www.biztech.asia, as well as our social media platforms. Please like and subscribe to our various platforms. Thanks for tuning in.